Hey Brad, how's it going? I wanted to give you a few tips on video rather than on text. I suppose what you're talking about is having learned the minor pentatonic in like the position most guitar players learn it in to begin with, sort of on the fifth fret here. So all the strings through 5 8 5 7 5 7 5 7 5 8 5 8, so on. And once you've gotten familiar with that and you're starting to explore how you can create melodies with that shape, I think one thing that I often see in players that are just getting used to this is that they become kind of hung up on playing the next note in the scale up or down, and it sort of ends up with almost a nursery rhyme feel to it. So it ends up becoming something like this. Fine start, but I think it's important to note that you can actually, skip intervals. So you could start. This gets a bit different vibe and a different feel and opens up a bit. And opens the possibilities up a bit. Now, once you're getting the hang of that, I'm just going through a few steps that I'd take here. I try to find a backing track in A minor. There's a one called Easy Groove backing track in A minor on YouTube that I've just found here. And I'd kind of just try and fiddle around with the melodies here and trying to come up with something just to feel like you're creating music. I'm struggling to just stay in that shape. That took a whole lot of brain power to just stay there for me in some way. But once you've gotten comfortable with that, I'd say either try to incorporate the blues note, which is the 6th fret of the A string, 8th fret here. Those two notes. Perhaps you've already tried that. You can incorporate that on the backing track as well to feel like you're getting that bluesy vibe. Let's try it. I think I muted the backing track. There we go. Here, I also think my B string is out of tune and everything, so that's great. It's fine. Anyway, once you've gotten used to that, perhaps start breaking out of that pentatonic box. You've gotten a 5th fret, so maybe you start just expanding on it a bit. You're playing that. Once you're up here, try to bring in the next note. And perhaps you already know this, but notes repeat on the fretboard. So the fifth fret of the high E string is the same as the 10th here, as the 14th, so on. So maybe you start to figure out that the 5th fret here is actually repeated here. So instead of playing that note here, you can play it here. so on, you start to tie them together in a way, knowing that it repeats. And so on. Now, perhaps then you start exploring outside of the shape you have there, so just gonna go and play some pentatonics here, just all over the neck. Getting more and more comfortable with that. Now, once you've done that, and you've mastered the pentatonic shapes, and you've mastered the adding the blues note to kind of get that bluesy vibe, perhaps you could start to think about other notes that are in the minor scale. So, for instance, one note that I quite like to add, and is sort of similar to the way you added one note to the pentatonic box to get the blues scale. You can add one other note to get another vibe. And for me, one note that I like to add is the major second. And from here, from the 5th fret, if we add the major second, that would be the B note, or the 7th fret here. And that note repeats up here in the 4th fret as well. Up here. So adding that in, we get something that sounds along the lines of this. Instead of the blues note. You can sort of mix and match those. Sometimes it sounds a bit weird when you're using both, but it can work. And it adds, to me, that major second can actually add sort of a sad vibe over an A minor chord. So, for instance, here. I'm bringing the blues note. So, already here, by adding that note there, the B note, you're starting to add in notes from the minor scale, and the whole A minor scale would look like this. If you're playing it there, or if you're playing it 3 notes per string, you can play like this. And the note I added in, besides that B note, is an F note here. So the F on the 8th fret of the A string. It's also the 6th fret of the B string. And the whole A minor scale is essentially the same as all the white keys on the keyboard, because the A minor scale and the C major scale are essentially the same scale. They are relative scales, relative minor and major scales. So in A minor, and I like to start in A minor because it's very natural in terms of the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's just the first 7 letters of the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. and it repeats A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, so on. Once you've mastered that and you've kind of started to get a grasp of where are the notes on the fretboard, so you know that's an A, this is an A, this is an A, this is an A, so on. Kind of start to tie them together. And you can of course do this on the backing track as well, using all the notes, and you can add in those that spicy note, with the blue note we talked about before. You can add that in, or you can cut out some of the notes. You don't have to play them all in a row. You could play some notes and then do a skip in intervals. Add in the blue note. Let's try and do that on the backing track. That way you sort of build your vocabulary, you sort of have fun while playing on a backing track, and it becomes more enjoyable, for me at least. That was my experience, rather than sitting and kind of endlessly getting, practicing those shapes. And you come to know them as well, as long as you stay sort of conscious about them. But instead of sounding very exercise, like, if all you're playing is as a rabbit, so on, and that's all you're doing when you're improvising or when you're writing songs. It trains your technique, but it doesn't train your inner melodic ear in a way. So, I'd suggest work on melodies. And that's another reason why I always found, those exercises like that spider exercise. It's all good for finger dexterity, but how many songs are you gonna... How many songs are you gonna sit and do that all over? I mean, it trains something, but it's worth in some capacity doing, but if you can train and work on your melodies and your scales at the same time. I mean, it's a lot more fun in a way, to me at least. Put on a backing track, sort of, that's just my suggestion, taking this route of like adding small things in a musical direction, not so much in a technical direction, because as I said, sitting there for like, half an hour doing whatever, it's fine and all, but it becomes, in a way, it's training your muscles, and that's fine too, but it's not training your ear. And you could sit and do that on the backing track as well if you wanted to. string. Do that. I messed up before. Wasn't even doing 3 note strings again there. Kind of talking at the same time. I can't even play now. So far from my style, I try to think more melodically. Anyway. That's one final tip here. Nearly been talking for like 17 minutes. Notes don't always have to be the same duration. I know I did a bit of that here just to demonstrate it. So you don't always, when you're creating a melody, it does not have to be like only doing 8th notes. You can linger on one note, and specifically more so chord tones of the specific chords. For instance, if you're in A minor, having an A minor chord, linger on that A note for a bit. Other chord tones would be the C and the E. Perhaps you linger on those notes a bit longer and include other notes as more of passing notes or notes that want to resolve. Once you come back towards that A or towards that A minor chord tone. Anyway, quite a few tips here. Let me know if any of it makes sense or didn't make sense. Feel free to ask questions. I hope this sort of helps.